Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time, over 2.5 millennia, to witness the birth of one of history's greatest superpowers. We're not talking about legions and emperors just yet. Instead, we're going to the very beginning, to a cluster of hills by the Tiber River, to uncover the story of the founding of the Roman kingdom. How did a small settlement on Palatine Hill grow to become the city that would rule the known world? Let's find out. Our story begins not with a historical record, but with a legend, an epic tale that has captivated imaginations for centuries. It's the story of two brothers, Romulus and Remus, twin sons of the god Mars and a Vestal virgin named Rhea Silvia, condemned to die by their jealous great-uncle. The infant twins were cast into the Tiber River, but fate, or perhaps the gods, had other plans. The basket washed ashore, and the boys were discovered and nursed by a she-wolf, the famous Lupa Capitolina. Later, they were found and raised by a humble shepherd named Faustulus and his wife. As they grew into strong young men, their noble lineage became undeniable. After discovering their true identity, they restored their grandfather to the throne and set out to build a city of their own. They returned to the very hills where they had been saved, a strategic location with fertile soil and a commanding view of the river. But a fateful argument arose. Which hill should be the center of their new city, and who should be its king? They agreed to let the gods decide through augury, a practice of interpreting the flight of birds. Remus, standing atop the Aventine Hill, saw 6 vultures first, but Romulus, on the Palatine Hill, then saw 12. A fierce dispute erupted over the meaning of the omen. Was it the first sighting that mattered or the greater number? In the ensuing conflict, tragedy struck. The accounts vary, but they all end the same way. Remus was killed, leaving Romulus as the sole founder. On April 21st, 753 BC, Romulus took a plow pulled by a white bull and a white cow and traced the sacred boundary, the asterisk, Pomerium asterisk, around the Palatine Hill. Within this furrow, Rome was born. Now, let's step back from the myth and look at what archaeology tells us. The legend, powerful as it is, likely weaves together threads of historical truth. Archaeologists have found evidence of simple Iron Age huts on the Palatine Hill dating back to the 8th century BC, right around the traditional founding date. It seems the story of a single, dramatic founding event might be a simplification of a more gradual process. What likely happened was a syncretism, a coming together of several small, independent villages perched on the different hilltops. These communities, likely of Latin and Sabine origin, slowly began to cooperate for mutual defense and trade. The Palatine Hill was the perfect starting point. It was centrally located, easily defensible, and sat above the marshy lowlands, offering protection from floods and malaria. Early Rome was a collection of shepherds and farmers. Life was simple, centered around family, clan, and tribe. They built wattle and daub huts, grazed their flocks, and farmed the surrounding land. The Forum, the future bustling heart of the Roman Empire, was at this time little more than a marshy burial ground between the Palatine and Capitoline hills. But this humble collection of settlements held the seed of greatness. Romulus, according to tradition, ruled for nearly 40 years. He wasn't just a founder, he was a lawgiver and a military leader. One of his first challenges was a severe lack of women in his new city, which was populated mostly by men adventurers, outcasts, and runaways. To solve this, he devised a plan. He invited the neighboring Sabine tribe to a festival, and at a signal, the Roman men abducted the Sabine women. This event, known as the Rape of the Sabine Women, sounds shocking to us, and it led to immediate war. But the story ends with the Sabine women themselves intervening, placing themselves between their fathers and their new husbands, pleading for peace. The result was a union. The Sabines and the Romans merged, and their king, Titus Tatius, ruled jointly with Romulus. This story illustrates a key Roman trait, the ability to absorb and integrate other peoples, turning former enemies into allies and citizens. Romulus is also credited with establishing Rome's earliest political institutions. He created the Senate, an advisory council of elders composed of the heads of the leading families, the paters or fathers, from whom the patrician class would descend. He also organized the citizens into 3 tribes and 30 curiae, which formed the basis of the early Roman army and assembly. These foundational structures, though they would evolve dramatically, would endure in some form for 1,000 years. After Romulus, Roman tradition tells us of 6 more kings. These weren't necessarily hereditary monarchs in the way we think of them today. The king was elected for life by the People's Assembly and confirmed by the Senate. Each king is remembered for a specific contribution to Rome's growth. The second king, Numa Pompilius, was a Sabine known for peace and religious institution. He is said to have established the calendar, the major priesthoods in the Temple of Janus, whose gates were open in times of war and closed in times of peace. He gave Rome its religious and legal framework, balancing Romulus's martial legacy with a foundation of civil order. Following Numa, Tullus Hostilius was a warrior king who doubled Rome's territory by conquering the nearby city of Alba Longa, the supposed mother city of Romulus and Remus. Then came Ancus Marcius, Numa's grandson, who was known for his public works. He built the first bridge across the Tiber, the Pons Sublicius, founded the port city of Ostia at the river's mouth, and established Rome's first salt flats, a vital economic resource. Under these early Latin and Sabine kings, the settlement on the Palatine hill was no longer isolated. It had absorbed its neighbors and was expanding its influence, slowly but surely unifying the 7 hills: the Palatine, Aventine, Capitoline, Caelian, Esquiline, Viminal, and Quirinal. The final phase of the Roman kingdom saw a significant shift. The last 3 kings were not Latin or Sabine but Etruscan. The Etruscans were a powerful and culturally advanced civilization to the north of Rome, in modern-day Tuscany. The first of these, Tarquinius Priscus, is said to have gained the throne through a combination of wealth and charisma. He marked a new era of ambition and urban development. He is credited with draining the marshy valley between the hills and paving it to create the Roman Forum, transforming it from a cemetery into a public square. He also established the Circus Maximus for chariot racing and began construction on the great temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill. His successor, Servius Tullius, was a man of humble origins who was remembered for one of the most important reforms of the early Roman state, the Servian constitution. He conducted the first census and reorganized the citizenry into classes based on wealth. This was crucial because military service was now tied to property. The wealthier you were, the better armor you could afford, and the more political influence you had. He also expanded the city and is credited with building the massive Servian wall around the 7 hills, physically uniting them into a single, defensible city. Rome was no longer a collection of villages. It was now a true urban center, a major power in the region. The 7th and final king of Rome was Lucius Tarquinius Supervis, or Tarquin the Proud. As his name suggests, he ruled as a tyrant, ignoring the Senate and oppressing the people. His reign culminated in a dramatic event that would change the course of Roman history forever. His son's assault on a noblewoman named Lucretia sparked a rebellion led by an aristocrat named Lucius Junius Brutus. The people, fed up with tyranny, rose up, expelled Tarquin and his family, and vowed never again to be ruled by a king. In 509 BC, the Roman kingdom came to an end. In its place, a new form of government was born, the Roman Republic. And so, our story of the kingdom concludes. Over 2.5 centuries, Rome grew from a single hilltop settlement into a walled city dominating its neighbors. It began with myth and ended with revolution. The period of the kings laid the groundwork for everything that followed: the Senate, the army, the religious customs, and most importantly, an unshakable hatred of monarchy that would define the Roman political identity for the next 500 years. The journey from Palatine Hill to the 7 hills was complete, setting the stage for the rise of the Republic and, eventually, the Empire. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to the very dawn of Rome. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about ancient history, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments which period of Roman history you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious.